Hi. So today I'm going to talk about the salary expectation in quantitative finance, right? Well, it depends on a number of things, but I'm going to talk about the salary expectation for freshers, for experienced professionals, salary expectations. How does it vary with respect to the location, to the to the job profile, and so on. So we'll discuss in detail, right? If you have questions, always feel free to reach out to me. You can also ask in the comment section of this video. All right. So you know so what is a what is a quant profile, right? A quant profile is a very technical sort of a profile, right? I have discussed about quant finance and the career path for quants actually in this channel a number of times. But quantitative finance is a very technical field, right? But it is quite different from other technical fields such as software engineering and data science in many ways. Quant finance is very interdisciplinary, unlike software engineering, for example, right? In software engineering, you just need to know coding actually, right? As long as you are a good developer, you know how to write code. Yeah, you can do well there, right? As a data scientist, you also need to know modeling and some coding. But if you want to work as a quant, actually you need to know a lot about finance. You need to know a lot about mathematical modeling, different kinds of mathematical modeling, not just machine learning, but also simulations, also stochastic calculus and so on. And you also need to have good coding skills, right, in Python, C++. So it's quite interdisciplinary in nature, and hence you don't find good quants actually in the market because not everyone has these three skills, right? But if you have interest in mathematics and statistics, you should be fine with such a career because yeah, it's very analytical. You sort of use mathematical models to solve problems in finance, use some coding but not at the level of, let's say, developing softwares, right? It's quite rewarding, both financially as well as intellectually. You'll be solving very difficult problems using mathematics, using data, using writing code, but it's also quite rewarding financially, and that's exactly the topic of this video, where I'm going to tell you about how much salary you can expect, right? Many people have reached out to me regarding career advice, and one common question I've got is that how much salary can I expect, right? Sometimes people have unrealistic expectations also from this career. I think I would like to I'd like to clarify a few things, right? It's definitely lucrative, no doubt about it. I'm not going to disappoint you by saying that it's not lucrative, which is not true. It's definitely lucrative, but at the same time, there must be realistic expectations, right? And also your salary and bonuses increase over time, right? You don't get a lot of these things starting out, right? So you need to have some patience, right? A lot of the fresh guys who are still in university and colleges, they're expecting some insane amount of money starting out. I think that's that's not the right way of approaching a career, or going ahead with a career, any career actually, not just quant finance. Anyway, let's come back to the salary expectation, right? So it depends on where you work and what kind of profile you're going to be working in, right? You could be working as a quant trader, or researcher, working towards generating alpha, generating profits, right, for various types of fund, private fund, hedge funds, those family offices and so on. But they're not too many roles, right? Such roles, but these are very lucrative profiles, by the way, right? And then you have quantitative risk managers. These are people who work in big banks and insurance companies, consulting firms as well. It could also, the salary could depend on whether you're going to be working in the buy side or the sell side, right? Buy side is more lucrative compared to the sell side. Whether you're going to be working in banks, or private funds. Private funds pay more compared to the banks. But you could lose jobs in private fund anytime, but that's not the case in banks, right? Your job is more stable, right? So it's a question about stability and lack of stability, right? It's more like the risk reward return, right? You make more money in private funds, but your career is less stable there, right? Whether you work for big firms or small firms, right? It depends, right? Big firms have deep pockets. They could pay a lot of money, right? If you're really that good. Location matters a lot. The salary that you will expect in London, you won't expect that sort of salary in Manchester or in Berlin, for example, right? So it depends on where you're going to be working in which location. Freshers and experience, goes without saying that experienced professionals actually make a lot more than the freshers, and it's quite true actually in the case of this particular career, where fresher salary could be significantly less than the experienced professional, especially for some of these profiles. Okay, let me dive into details about the salary expectations, different job profiles, right? If you're in the quant trading and investment type roles, right? Now you get a lot of salary actually, a lot of money actually, you make a lot of money. Even starting out, you make a lot of money, but there are not many opportunities, and the selection process is insanely difficult actually, and sometimes it's so difficult that you could say that it's probably just a matter of luck. A lot of most people who get hired in these profiles as freshers, they probably know nothing much about trading or building models for investment. They get hired for the reputation, coming from top university, like you from Ivy League or Oxford, or you from IITs in India, having top quality degrees like CS or mathematics, that kind of degrees. You could also have PhD physics from top universities. You have done research, so because of your profile, you get hired. You don't get hired as a fresher just because you know skills. Certainly not true for these roles, right? If you have a lot of achievements actually, while being a student, for example, you have done high quality research, or you have been part of the international Olympiad in different academic areas, or you have done really well in the entrance test, that really would impress this company. But having said that, there are also exceptions. By the way, I know people who haven't who don't belong to any of these category, and they have really got into these roles. Right, it's tough, but it's quite possible though, right? And in the fresher salary could differ on where you work. Actually, in US, the salaries could range anywhere between 150 to 400k. And if you are working for the top firms, you will be almost certain to get more than 250 or 300k as a fresher. Actually, that's quite handsome salary, by the way, right? In Europe, actually, things are very different. Actually, you don't make that kind of money in Europe. London is an exception. In London, you make a lot of money also, but apart from London and outside of London, I think you don't make a lot of money working as a quant trader. There are restrictions on bonuses also. For example, if you work in Netherlands, there is a restriction on how much bonus payout will happen, right? Government, there is a cap by the government, and yeah, that could affect your compensation. It's also true in many other European countries, by the way, right? If you work in Middle East, actually, it's quite lucrative as well, right? I haven't started given the salaries in Middle East, but it's as good as US salaries also. Can be better in sometimes also, right? In India, actually, there are not many opportunities. Actually, a lot of people have made videos on YouTube about opportunities in India, but there's simply not many opportunities in quant trading profile, especially the big ones, right? The US ones like the Citadel and the Two Sigma type sort of company. But there are many Indian companies who started quant trading actually, which is a good thing actually, and they're doing good quality work also. But they don't pay huge salaries initially. I know for a fact. But you could be expecting anywhere between 30 lakhs to 50 lakhs if you work in these Indian sort of companies. But if you work in this the big global firms, I think you can expect around 1 CR salary, but it could be also even more than that, right? But if you work as a quant trader or in the investment side in big banks, your pays could be significantly less. Okay, note it down actually, right? You should not expect that kind of salary. Your pays could be even less than half of these numbers, right? Right, and if you get experience actually, right, your salaries would increase 2x or 3x, but it saturates actually after a point. It's true with every technical job profile, right? After a certain point, it saturates a lot, and it's also true for quant finance. In quant risk management, there's simply a lot of jobs, right? It's easier to get into, much easier in fact. Most quants, as I've always said, 9 out of 10 quants actually work in quant risk management for big banks and insurance companies. Much more stable career. Long term opportunities are good. So in short term you don't make a lot of money, but in long term you could go really handsome money, and you could also become a senior executive in big banks and all, and it is quite lucrative. Better work life balance. So it's also not a very bad career actually. The quant trading profile actually looks very, very lucrative to many people because people want to make quick money, which is great. But if you don't get into this profile, so don't worry, you can also work in quant risk management. So it's also lucrative actually, if you think long term, right? The fresher salary in US could be anywhere between 80 or 100k to 150. In some cases it could also go to 200k, depending on the profile and the market situation at that time. In Europe actually salaries could be much less compared to that in the US. The fresher salary could be anywhere between 60 to 100k, but in some exceptional scenario you could be making more than 100. Again, London is an exception in Europe. In India actually the salary range could vary a lot actually, right? You could also start with 8 to 10 lakhs in some banks. But if in some of the big investment banks, for example Morgan Stanley and Goldman Sachs, you could be making more than 40 lakhs, or even more than that, depending again on the profile. But and I think now that the average salary in quant even for fresher is more than 20 lakhs. I don't think anybody pays less than that. I think most of them paid quite good salaries. But with some experience, actually, you make a lot more. Actually, right? I'm going to discuss about that. Actually, that your salary increases a lot. So there is a steep increase in your salary with experience in quant profiles. So as experienced professional in the US, you could be making more than 200k, and if you really become a team lead or a manager, you could even make up to 500k, half a million. That's quite possible, by the way. In Europe actually things are a bit different, but in Europe actually the career growth can be very, very steep actually. You can have a very steep career growth, and in couple of years time you could be making even more than 120, 130, even 150k, which is quite decent salary in Europe. In London you can even make more than that. In India actually, surprisingly, a lot of people will be surprised that I remember, I think even 6-7 years back, when the average, or maybe 8 years back, when the average salary for many software engineering jobs was less than probably 20 lakhs. People in quant finance used to make about 40-50 lakhs quite easily actually. That was the thing. I do not know what has changed, but I know some of my friends are in that 1 CR range. But that would probably take you at least 8 to 10 years. But if you're really smart, if you're doing well, I think making more than 50 lakhs after a couple of years is not a big deal. Some of the things to keep in mind: tier 1 banks pay the most. If you work for Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, JP Morgan, or UBS, you could be making more. Consulting companies good, they pay really well only at experience level. Manager and above, the pays are good. Below that, they don't pay well at all. Then it also depends on what kind of work what kind of quant risk management you're doing, right? If you're in trading quant risk management, you probably will be making a lot more, right? Than, let's say, you're doing credit risk model development. And the pattern is like that, right? If you work in trading side, you will be making more compared to pricing of derivative market risk type. And the market risk pricing trading people make more than credit risk, but within credit risk, although the people who develop wholesale models, they make more than the people who build retail models. So these skills also matters a lot. If you're a developer, model developer, you make more than you are a validator, or you're doing monitoring activities, right? So please keep these things in mind while negotiating salaries with headhunter. If you work as a quant in fintechs, actually, right? Fintech is a very interesting area. Great learning opportunities. Growth can be very exponential, but it's a bit of a risk. If the company doesn't do well, then you don't get much, but you can still be in quite demand, actually, right? Fintech is perhaps the most funded startup area, right, in most places in the world, certainly in Europe and US, but also in India. If you're based out of London or you're based out of US, I think this is one place to be, actually, right? If you're a risk taker, I think it you could also make even more money in fintechs compared to that in quant trading, in quant trading profiles. In fintechs, actually, salaries can be very, very low for freshers. In US it can be around 100K. In Europe also about 70 maybe. In India, average maybe 15 lakhs to 20 lakhs, in some cases 25 30 lakhs. But the stocks options can be very lucrative. I know people who work as quants in fintechs, they actually, many of them have gone on to become CRO or chief analytics officer or chief product officer in 5 6 7 years time. And right, you could be starting with 80, but you could easily move up to 400K in about 5 years time. Not to mention the stock option and the benefits that you get from those stock options, because of the increase in the valuation of the company. Now these things can happen, right? So wonderful, especially for young. I think I would highly recommend you to explore a career in fintechs. Now let me talk about the skills that pay the highest, right? Among all the things that really matters is the previous experience, right? If you have some experience, that will decide what is going to be your next salary, right? If you have really high quality experience, right, you have done quant trading for a top firm for 5 years, right, your bargaining power will be very, very high. So previous experience matters the most by far. Nothing comes anywhere close to that, actually. So I don't know about other job profiles, but in quant finance, high quality experience matters a lot. So give that a lot of emphasis when you start out, right? If you get a job where you can learn more and the brand value is good, but it pays a bit less compared to another job which probably is paying more, but the job profile is not as great as the first one, take the first one. Okay, so that's advice. The brand of your company matters also, especially in quant trading investment profiles, but also if you have worked with big investment bank, that really has got a lot of weightage on your CV. Or even if you have worked with big four consulting firm, also that really helps a lot. Hard skills are very important. It's a quantitative role, right? It's a technical role, so should be really good with technical things. So if you have good modeling skills, if you have coding skills, very, very important, very, very useful. Communication skills do matter, especially leadership role, right? If you work in QRM, quantitative risk management areas, and you should in fact try to become a lead or a manager in 5 to 8 years time. There, what will really matter, next to your modeling skills, whether you have done project management, whether you have any prior leadership skills or not, whether you can communicate with senior stakeholders or not, whether you can talk to regulators or not, right? So it's not just about crunching numbers, it's also about talking to business people, right? You need some certain level of elegance, actually, in order to do that. And you will be talking to regulators and all kinds of stakeholders. So it's once you become a lead, then it's not just a tech job anymore. It's also about a more of a managerial job, managing technical people. And so these skills matters, do matter a lot. What matters less, actually? People have this notion that certification matters a lot. For freshers, it matters somewhat, but that does not decide your salary, by the way. It may help you get a job. For example, if you have FRM, if you have CQF or CFA, yeah, it will get some attention. You probably will get a call for the interview, but yeah, you're getting a job or how much money you will make there will totally depend on your skills and your knowledge, not just the certification, right? uh, so keep that in mind. Reputation of college, this is a problem less in US and Europe, but more in India. People who have gone to good colleges, for freshers it really matters. For instance, if you haven't been to IITs, it's lot more difficult to get into a quant trading profile, especially for at big ones. But for other job profiles in quant area, right, your college degree probably will matter for the first time you get a job, as a fresher. But after that, nobody really cares. I've worked with people from top university. Many of them haven't really done well, by the way. So just take that away from your mind. Right. And it's a technical role, by the way. So after a while, it's your technical skills will only matter. This college degree won't matter much after a couple of years of your experience. All right. Some tips I like to give. I'm an insider, by the way, so I have been in this industry for quite some time. Not that I have worked in all these areas, but I have the experience of talking to people from all these areas. I myself have worked in number of areas, but not in all of them. So some of the tips I would like to give is that aim for a first track career. Actually, quantitative finance is one such career where you don't have to wait too long to get promoted and to get better paying jobs. So don't overstay in your role, right? Try to be a specialist in more than one area, right? So if you have 5-6 years of experience, you should already be a specialist at least in 3 areas, right? Not just one, right? So don't overstay in your role. Okay, keep changing jobs, keep changing your profile, right? And you not change a job, but you could do that internally within the company also, right? Work for big brands, it matters a lot. Right, unlike in software engineering, where you probably have heard that if you work for small companies, it's illustrative. That's great, but if you work for fintechs, well-funded fintechs, that's different. But if there is option between choosing a big bank or a small bank, choose the big one, choose the more well-known one. Okay. Okay, prefer a harder area, right? If you get a chance to work in let's say option pricing, if you get a chance to work with working for a pension fund, doing investment research, go for those profiles. Okay. And if you work in quant risk management, then aim for a leadership profile, ultimately. Okay, only then you will make more. Otherwise, there are limitations to how much you could make money just by being a technical guy. After 10 years, I think you really need to go into leadership profiles. All right, so these are some of the things I wanted to share. If you want to learn quant finance from scratch, as a beginner, I have made a course on certification in quantitative finance and risk modeling. It covers number of topics, financial econometrics, asset pricing, machine learning in finance, quant trading and investment, and risk modeling, like credit risk and market risk modeling. So all these are super important if you're looking for a job in quant finance as a fresher or as an experienced professional. Do reach out to me. I have these. You can find the contact details in the description. And yeah, thanks, and see you another time.